Women in Technology group here at Commvault, in addition to my normal role as a senior manager of strategic renewals. So this is almost like I don't want to say a second job for me, but it's definitely something extremely important to me that I spend a lot of time with. So I just want to give you an idea of what we are, who we are, and what we're doing as a Women in Tech group here at Commvault. And as Sanjay had mentioned, diversity and inclusion is really a mainstay of organizational success. But what does that mean for WIT? To me, that means we all play a role. Sanjay had mentioned a list of a few names and teams and talent, really, that together has accomplished marvelous things. And these people have been supported and encouraged, and I think that's what our job is to continue encouraging and supporting visibility of women and their daily roles. And not only that, but also creating an industry that generations to come are extremely excited about leaving a market. So that's what it means to me to play a role in women in technology. So what we have founded our WIT group on is really 3 pillars. The first one is connecting and collaborating. The second being professional development. And the third, giving back to our community. So I mentioned connect and collaborate. Imagine what it's like getting 400 people across the US and Canada together for a meeting. It's not easy. And then 200 more people in EMEA and APAC, so we've got to work it out for us. So on a bi-weekly basis, what we try to do is kick out a spotlight, a Women in Technology spotlight, to really get to know the other people in our organization across the pond, or across the country, across the state, across the building, really, in Tinton Falls, if you think about it. A lot of our women are extremely good. They're very, very talented at multitasking. They're terrible at tuning their own horn. So this also gives us a platform to start that conversation, which is excellent. In addition, what we like to do is send out on a periodic basis just a survey to see who's engaged, who wants to become more engaged, how do they want to be engaged, how often, what time constraints or commitments are available, just so we can understand how to make our group better for Commvault and just better as a whole. So the second would be professional development in terms of pillars. I'm extremely, extremely excited because we, as a WIT core group, have been hard at work coming together to create a boot camp, if you will. And I think Anthony Faustini is in the room. He has graciously agreed to support and to sponsor our boot camp, which is, so far, it's going to be a biannual tradition for our Women in Technology, where we come together and we really we bunker down and we get some training from an outside vendor, communication training, presentation styles, how to present yourself in a room, and then we take that and we make sure that we put that into practice in day 2 with a bunch of other fun stuff mixed in. But the investment in professional development is extremely, extremely crucial to our success as an organization and individually. So thank you, Anthony. We're extremely excited about that. In addition, one of the initiatives that we'd like to kind of roll out here in the second half of the year is partnering with our partners, essentially, for some enrichment activities on a local level with our partners. I think that we can do more as a WIT organization to bring people together, similar as we've done here in this room, and just really learn and grow together. So that's it for professional development. And then finally, giving back. WIT loves to give back. So in the past, we've done a couple different things. We've supported the American Heart Association for a few years, making strides for breast cancer for a couple of years. And just recently, we supported the Dream Center. So as an organization, we sponsored their Night of Dreams event was just this past Saturday, and a group of our core members from our Tinton Falls headquarters chapter came together to support that evening, which was their 7th annual Night of Dreams event. It gives back to the community. And this is on the heels of a month-long baby pantry drive that we did to support the organization as well, which is pretty cool. You're giving back to women that are having a hard time affording or having access to diapers and wipes and formula, which I hear is extremely expensive, so that they can get back on their feet, get back into the workforce, and that sort of thing. So giving back is also, it's not just monetary, I would say. Giving back, we also have, we've partnered with a local school that's pretty close to our headquarters. And we want to make sure that we bring them in and have a fireside chat with them and give them the opportunity to talk to actual engineers so that they can see what they're learning in their engineering program in school, how that really translates when they're done with school. What does that really mean? And did you know of all the types of engineers that there are? And to be inspired by some of the great engineers and talent that we have at Commvault. So we're excited about that. We got a lot of stuff in the works. And you did not come here to listen to me speak for the hour and a half. So what I'd like to do is bring up our panelists at this time. Well, thank you for joining. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. Before I do so, I just want to let you know why we're here. I know Sanjay had mentioned previously, I have no idea what day, because we're day 0, day 1, day 2, day 3, 2.5. He mentioned that you can't have a business without partners. So the focus for our panel discussion is really going to be about partnerships and the importance of those partnerships throughout our careers. So before we get into some Q&A here, I would love to introduce our panelists. In doing so, I'm going to ask, once I introduce you, if you could just give a word or two on why you agreed to do this panel. So to my left, Tamara Ells. From Arrow, she's the VP of Infrastructure Platforms.
You're on? So why? You know, women in technology, it's such an interesting group, right? I mean, when you look out here, 3 years ago, there wouldn't have been so many guys in this room, right? The idea of being able to kind of talk about diversity and what it means to partnership and how we can really kind of build a more inclusive relationship together is really important to me and near and dear. So appreciate the effort, appreciate the time, and Commvault's interest in driving this.
And thank you for being here. Thank you so much. To your left, Theresa Forman, President of Macmillan.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm now a Commvault employee, and thank you for inviting me to be part of the panel. I am a partner of Commvault, so we are a creative agency and the creative agency of record for Commvault for the last 5 years. So, you know, clearly I believe very much in the value of partnership. And so, you know, much of the visuals that you've seen through the show floor are the work of not just our team, but again, the partnership with Chris Powell, Ali Hinkelman, and the rest of the marketing team. So we're pretty passionate about the importance and the value of partnership, and clearly being a woman. Our business has a B2B focus as a creative agency, and most of our client base is tech. So I have, like, personally, a very vested interest in B2B technology, women who are, you know, the voice in technology and partnership. So again, that's why I agreed to be part of the panel. Again, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. You might have one
I don't. Partnership, we're good. We're going to share. Bam. Oh, I liked my partner.
Okay, well, we can still be partners.
And most everybody knows Sandra Hamilton. She's on the main stage today. She's our head of customer success for Commvault. And why did you decide to agree to this?
Well, I don't know how many of you guys know Kristen, but it's really hard to say no. So that would be the first reason. So no, thank you very much. And it's been a great, you know, since I first joined Commvault about 4.5 or 5 months ago. Kristen actually was just taking over as the head of WIT, and you know, she's like, "Come on, do this event. Want to do this event?" I'm like, "I'm never in town. What can I do?" And so she said, "Hey, we're having an event at CommvaultGo, and please do it." So there's absolutely no way I can say no. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. So we're going to jump right in here. Theresa, you recently contributed to an article, Data versus Opinion, and Why You Need Both. So in the article, you pointed out the strength of AI and predictive versus prescriptive analytics, helping us to bring data closer to our customers. On the flip side, data can be overwhelming, and it can be an obstacle. So when evaluating a partnership, no doubt data is crucial. However, at what point is it really necessary to put the data aside and focus on the human element of that partnership?
I think that's a great question, and it's something I'm super passionate about. I think it's immediately, right? So we all live in the world of data, that's our day-to-day, and there's so much value that comes from the data and AI and everywhere where the industry is going. But data can only get you so far. I mean, it's super important to sit down as partners and figure out where are we now, what's the data showing us, where do we want to go, how are we going to get there, what are the different technologies we can use to get us there. But at some point, if you're going to move beyond a vendor relationship, you really have to know who you're getting married to. And, I mentioned, Chris and I and Allie. I mean, Allie's been with the company maybe a year and a half now. Chris and I have been working together for 5 years. It moves beyond the vendor relationship. I've had dinner with his family, we know each other's kids' names, the first question is how is your family? I think, I hope most of you know who Maya Angelou is, and one of the quotes of hers that I try and live my personal and professional life by is, people won't remember what you said, what you did, but they'll always remember the way you made them feel. And I think that's what I try and bring to every partnership. That's what I think, really, this is like a marriage. This is no different than any other relationship in your life. You spend, frankly, we all spend more time with the people we're working with than we do our families, right? You miss, sometimes in the roles we're in, you have to miss important personal events like birthdays, anniversaries, or, whatever that is. So you really have to really like the people you're in bed with, pardon the expression. And so I think immediately you have to lead with empathy, understand where each other are coming from, what's going to make them successful, what's going to make you successful. There's a lot of research that shows that when people are stressed, which frankly is probably everybody in this room's life, that we actually depend more on our feelings than we do the data. So that feeling aspect of a partnership is really important, and if you can share those feelings, have empathy for, so for example, Chris or Ali's role, the stress that is in their life is very different than our team on the creative agency side life. But if you have empathy for each other's stresses, if you have empathy for each other's needs and goals, and how do you make each other successful, then it just makes for a better partnership.
I love the quote from Maya Angelou, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. You always remember how people make you feel, even if you don't remember their face, their name, so. I agree completely. Thank you. My next question is for Sandy. You've had multiple roles prior to Commvault, mostly focused on consulting in order to align strategies for different parts of the business in order to be successful. This required you to build relationships internally, or partnerships internally, really, across different business functions. So the question is, what made these relationships successful, and how do these relationships contribute to your current success as our head of customer success?
Great question. The reality is, and I'll go back to, it's going to sound really funny, this was not planned, I swear. But if you go back to, thinking about Jimmy Chin's presentation that he did earlier today, right? And they thought about Alex and how he climbed alone and how he had to do that alone. But the reality is, there was a team of people, working to try and make him as successful as possible, quite honestly, which is how to document that in a way that was non-invasive and that was a partnership, really, for that entire team. And so when I think about internal partnerships, if you will, there is nothing that I can do in my role today or any role that I've had in the past that can be done by myself and be successful, right? It's across the entire company, because how Commvault or any other company that I've been at, how we all come across to our partners and our customers is a collaboration of an experience, right? And so, when I think about developing those internal relationships, it's about having a common goal, which is for us aligned around partnerships externally and customers externally and what we're doing with them. So, to think about having a common goal, having that common framework, and making sure that that is sort of all true north. Do we have the same goal? And I think that's the most important thing.
Excellent, thank you. I think in terms of internal partnerships, this is a shameless plug for WIT, obviously. A lot of the people that I've partnered with on different projects, WIT has brought us together, to be quite honest with you. So I'm extremely grateful for even the opportunity to partner with people that I would have no idea who they were and work in the same building. So it's extremely important. So thank you. Tammy, hi. Oh, never know you. Looking back from your role, way back when you were an account manager, moved up to sales director, and skipping ahead of that, of course, you're currently GM of infrastructure platforms. Do you have a similar experience that you can share insight on the importance of partnerships as your career has progressed?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, partnerships have always been a part of my career and how I grew and how I developed. They're even more important today. I mean, I don't think anyone in here hasn't been told that they have to do more with less, right? And these days, it's not more with less, it's do better with less, right? We don't have the resources, we don't have the funding, we don't have the skill sets under our direct control anymore. So how do you thrive, how do you survive in that kind of environment? You have to build partnerships. And an ability to build partnerships where you create a common vision, and you bring in people from different departments, different organizations, and drive to a common goal. I mean, that's the key to success today, because there's no way to do it without those extra skill sets and that extra perspective. So I think in my career, my ability to actually go through and build partnerships, to build alliances, has allowed me to do and kind of take on the challenges and the opportunities that I have today. I mean, you can't do it alone as an individual or an organization these days. You need to be able to partner. Even internally, I have the same, I've got a little bit of a different, I own a P&L internally, right? So that means that the idea of matrix management is a big thing at Arrow. Matrix management just means that anytime I need to get anything done, I have to go out and convince a lot of different people who don't report to me that my project is more important than anything else they're doing. So it's all how you build those partnerships out and how you drive that. I don't think there's any other way you can succeed today other than to kind of build those partnerships and drive it. And it's funny that technology is such a small industry. I mean, I've run into a number of you out in the audience today I haven't seen in 5 or 6 years. I mean, know that the people you're working with today are liable in the future to have key positions to influence your career and your initiatives. So, get going on that networking.
Absolutely, and that's part of the whole reason for this presentation is these partnerships are going to continue to flourish when you leave your current role into your next role or organization, whatever it may be. So, thank you. Now we have probably some younger folks in the room who might be just starting their career or getting their first real whiff of how extremely important building partnerships can be for success. What advice would you give to your younger self in case of the opportunity to partner on a project?
I think the first thing I would say is don't be afraid. Like, embrace it. Number one, very quickly followed by hope is not a strategy. So I remember, I've been at this for almost 30 years now. Back in the day, like, I really hope this partnership works out. I really hope this goes well. I really hope we don't screw it up. I really hope, et cetera, et cetera. Hope is not a strategy. So we have, particularly now, really now, 30 years later, there's this proliferation of data. So there's so much data available to you to do your homework, plot the path, figure out, with your partner, what do you need to be successful? What do I need to be successful? How do we get there? What does the data say? And we're in the business at Macmillan of storytelling. And so figuring out that story ahead of time, what do we want that end story to be? Figuring that out ahead of time makes that path a little more visible. The other thing I would say, particularly as a young woman 30 years ago, to use Sheryl Sandberg's expression, lean in. And I hope we all know sort of what the premise of that is, so I won't beat that to death. But at the same time, it's you have an opinion, have a voice, and sometimes, you have to, beat on the table a little bit to have your voice heard, but have it, use it, don't be afraid to use it, and just as importantly, don't be afraid to hear the voices of others. Because I think humility is very important in partnerships, and also very important when you're young, as well as courage. So, when you're starting out your career, you're going to be sitting around a table with a lot of gray-haired people, unless you're like covered up or whatever. All right, ladies, whatever. And you're going to learn a lot, but also, particularly, the millennials. Millennials, as we all know, they're the most powerful generation than anybody prior to that. Their spending habits, they're going to be over 50% of the workforce within the next 5 years, et cetera. So being humble enough to open yourself to listen to different subject matter experts, know when you need to bring people in that, especially when you're young, you're trying to prove yourself, you're trying to make your mark. It's really more impressive when you say, I don't know, but I know somebody who does, and you bring them in. So have that humility, lean in, know the story you want to tell at the end of it. Don't be afraid at your age. Personally, one of the core values at Macmillan where we work is have an opinion, whether you're 70, 60, 50, or 22 and you just come out of school. So have an opinion, don't be afraid to voice it. Again, go back to the data, know what you guys want to accomplish as a partnership before you even start out, know what that story is going to be. And then just do it, then go get it.
Great advice. Thank you. Sandy, on the flip side, in a similar vein, what would you tell your younger self? When is it okay to maybe disengage with a partnership? It's not going to work out.
So my younger self would have said, I don't care about that partnership, which is not clearly the right answer that we have here. But it's interesting, right? I think that it is okay at times to disengage from a professional partnership when your goals aren't aligned, as the team's been talking about here, right? So when you actually have that mature conversation, the professional conversation, and your goals really just aren't aligned, there's lots of reasons for that. It's okay to say, this time we're not going to partner on something. But I'm going to go back to what was said here, which is, don't ever forget, though, that personal partnership is going to continue and is going to stay with you potentially forever. And so I'd say, from a professional perspective, do it in the right way, like under the right circumstances, but, never burn those bridges, really, at the end of the day, because those same folks are going to come back at some point in time in your life, and for whatever reason, you're going to want to lean on them, and they may want to call on you, and they want to feel comfortable doing that as well, so don't shut those doors on the personal partnership perspective.
Very good, thank you. And I agree completely. I think it is very well aligned with what we've been talking about here, so excellent. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. This is our last question. This is a Women in Tech event, so with that, Tammy, can you share any challenges that you've overcome as a woman in tech?
You're giving me the last one to kind of end on an upbeat note here. So I appreciated this question, going through. I thought a lot about going through it. Obviously, technology is still a heavily male-dominated industry. You're going to find yourself in situations, especially as you move up in organizations, when you're the only woman in the room, the only woman on the project. Certainly more diverse today than it has been. I also use some coloring on my hair. I've been around for a while.
What you guys are talking about?
So, it's, I've certainly been at more than my share of meetings where I've walked in and people just automatically assume that the guys that are with me are the ones who they should be talking to. You know, I've struggled at times with my voice as you're in a large group, you know, and it's hard to get heard, or you're kind of, whatever you're talking about, whatever your initiative is kind of pushed aside. Personal favorite is then when 10 minutes later, the guy at the end brings it up again, and it's like, what a great idea, you know? So, you know, what I'd say is, you still see some of that today in different situations, and if you're ever in that, you know, what I'd encourage you to do is kind of find an ally. And for all the guys in the room, you know, saying something like, hey, you know, gee, that's a great add-on to what Tammy said earlier is nice, other than somebody having to go in and say, but that was my idea, because, you know, that's not a good group dynamic, right, as you go through and do things. I think probably the most challenging one when we talk about partnership, though, is the times that I've been in different situations where we meet on Thursday, everybody's aligned, here's where we're going, and then suddenly on Monday, we've made a left turn, and you don't really know why. And then you find out, well, there was this event. It wasn't really a business event that we did, the golf outing, the game, whatever it was over the weekend. It just happened to come up that we were talking about this, and you know, now all of a sudden it's a different situation, and that type of thing really kind of challenges a partnership. I mean, I think that we've made a lot of advancements. There's a lot more women in strategic and leadership roles right now, so that kind of behavior is getting called out a lot more. So, you know, I think that partnership is actually kind of the answer to this for women. You know, having a true partnership, you know, where you're open, you're actually sharing credit and building good relationships, building alliances, both internal and external, help you kind of circumvent that and kind of offset that, you know, kind of still existing sometimes boys club mentality.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And being women at Commvault for 12 years, I've experienced some of that myself. So thank you again for those insights. Everybody, give it up for our panelists. So before we conclude, I'd like to invite Kori Younger up to the stage. Okay, so I'm not sure if anybody in the room has heard of Tech Field Day. Kori is a delegate in Tech Field Day, who is here on day zero for their event and had the opportunity to stay and mix and mingle and really kind of. And this is not your first go, is that right?
No, this is my second go.
Look at you! All right. So
Second
we wanted to hear. Perfect. So we wanted to hear from a younger audience member who is a woman who is very passionate about the IT industry. So that is why she's here. So, Kori, you've been here for the past couple of days. Can you give me one takeaway? What did you learn? What was your favorite thing about Go this year?
Yeah, so no offense to Commvault, but I traditionally think of storage as a little bit of a stagnant industry. And I think, I don't know, but I think that this year's Go really proved me wrong. So I am a security person by trade, a security person by schooling, graduating this December. Yeah. So just all of the innovation that's happening with the SaaS offerings and being able to consume technology in any way that people want. For me, I'm seeing a lot of companies who are taking their IT a little bit more seriously, especially smaller companies who may not be able to afford a traditional backup solution. So having that offering is really awesome. And then also the things that are happening with Activate and the security and compliance governance tagging. That really got me going. So if you're not already following me on Twitter, follow me at SDN-Daughter. There will definitely be some write-ups about that. So definitely excited to see that this industry isn't turning to stale blueberries.
Excellent, thank you. I did my research, I looked you up, and when I looked you up in your bio, you use words like DevOps, networking, and virtualization. When I was graduating college, I don't think I knew what any of that meant. So I'm very proud of you. But what makes you passionate about that? Who encouraged you?
Yeah, so, well, my roommate, my number one roommate, my mom, is SDN girl on Twitter. I'm SDN daughter. So she brought me into the networking world and the software-defined space. So I definitely have to give her the shout out there. She's taught me everything I know in that space. But I'm really lucky to have this wealth of mentors. Susie Wee, the CTO of DevNet for Cisco. I think it was 2016's Cisco Live when I walked out from about 6 hours of sitting in the DevNet zone. Eyes crusted over from a computer screen, and she said my name, and I didn't think she knew who I was, and completely bald, like I had just met Kylie Jenner. Completely embarrassing. But in the virtualization space, I have mentors like Carly Stoughton, who's formerly at vCarly on Twitter, now is at AI Carly. She stepped out of the infrastructure space. And back to the networking space, I've been able to stay in close contact with people like Kathy Chow, VMware's Research and Development Vice President. So it's really interesting to me that, especially in this women in technology community, people are staying connected not just at conferences, but we're staying connected on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I think Twitter is a way more great professional networking service than LinkedIn. But, you know, I use all those words, but really what promotes me to stay in the industry is probably my personal and professional mentors, people like Stephen Foskett. I joke that I have to write my first paycheck to him because, I mean, that guy really gave me a voice. He gave me a seat at the table when, you know, I think I maybe barely knew what I was talking about, but that guy really kicked off my career.
That's awesome, and again, that's another men supporting women. I think it is so extremely vital to all of our success. So thank you. Last question. Total Packets recently published a blog called Cloud Control. The importance of asking every IT director, CIO, CTO, what's your cloud strategy? I hope most of the people in this room have heard that question. I know everybody at Commvault has been programmed, what's your cloud strategy? So with that, how does that question really factor in? What role does security play in a cloud strategy, in your opinion?
Yeah, so secure data management is all what should be at the forefront of our cloud strategy. Knowing what data we're sending up to the cloud and making sure that it's the appropriate data. I think that's one of the importances for me of compliance and governance tagging. So making sure you know what data you're sending up to the cloud, how is that data encrypted, how often are those encryptions checked for vulnerabilities. And then also, when we think about security, we often think of the confidentiality and integrity piece of it. So if there's any security people in the audience, you know that the CIA triad is confidentiality, availability, and integrity. Confidentiality means nobody who's not supposed to see my data can see it. Integrity means nobody who's not supposed to edit my data can edit it. But availability means that if I send data up to the cloud, I need to be able to pull it back at any time. So making sure that any mission critical data, either we're keeping on-prem, we're keeping a backup on-prem, or making sure we can pull it down from the cloud at any time. So being very conscious about our vendors, making sure that we're being very careful about the shared liability when it comes to cloud security. So again, just making sure we know what data we're sending up to the cloud, how it's secured, and that it's always available.
Excellent, very well said. And thank you for joining us. Everyone give me a round. So at this point, I would encourage you all to continue networking, but before doing so, I just want to say thank you to Arrow for sponsoring this event. Without you, we would not have this event. So